All right, you guys. So when you are done threading and rethreading your machine 3 different times, you would have 3 completely different stitch lines that shows proof of the threading and rethreading successfully. Then you are going to move on to getting one of these packets from Mrs. Alland, and you could right away take this piece of fabric, and it says to staple it right here up in the corner. You could do that, and then you're going to move on to, so only staple it to this first sheet because you need the other papers behind it to practice sewing on paper. So you're going to take your thread out and your bobbin out, and you are going to get this first sheet, which I call the square or the rectangle sheet, and make sure again that your machine is not threaded. And you are going to make sure that you're on setting A, tensions between 2 and 3, length is between 2 and 3, and the width is between 2 and 3. And you are going to put this paper below the presser foot and lower the presser foot so that your needle is going to start right at the beginning of the sewing on paper sheet. And then you're going to turn on your machine and center yourself right in front of your machine so you have a good amount of control. And you are going to press on the pedal just very lightly so that you have a good amount of control. And you are going to follow the stitch line all the way to the end of the line on the piece of paper. As you get close, raise your foot from the pedal and use the hand wheel to get directly at the end of that line on the piece of paper. Then you will be able to lift the presser foot if your needle is down, and we call this pivoting because the needle's down. We are going to pivot, switch directions, and you are going to notice that I have barely been holding onto this piece of paper. I'm not tugging it to keep control. I'm letting the machine pull the piece of paper through with what's called the feed dogs underneath. So I'm just keeping control, keeping my hands back, and again using the hand wheel to get my needle to go right into the corner of this rectangle. And then continue until you have gotten to the end of this line, which would be right here. Make sure that you are not going quickly. Make sure you're not racing through the line and then having to put your piece of paper back under. Your goal is to finish at the line right where you need to pivot, okay? So this is the first sheet. Make sure your presser foot's down as you're sewing. And go slowly. And that one I just barely got to the very end. I'm just going to show you what it looks like on the back. Straight, even dots, meaning that I used all of the control that I could to not race through the lines and to sew on the paper, okay? So when you have completely finished this sheet, you can move on to this one. And on this one, you're really just going to, in any order, complete the X, and then you'll go and put the paper back under the machine and do maybe the diamond next, and then the last one would be maybe the rectangle, and you're pivoting at every corner and trying to keep the dots right on the printed lines. When you are done with this one, you can move on to this piece of paper. And on this piece of paper, I know it says number 1, 2, 3, or 4 stitch. You can just change the selector and just see what the dots, what little pattern of dots you get as you go over each line, but you're changing the selector to just maybe do 5 on here. When you're done with these, you're gonna put them all together. Make sure your neighbor doesn't get your papers because this is an assignment. You will put the cover page on the top, put your name right here, and you will probably already have this, maybe it's just paper clipped for now, right up in the corner. And this all can go into your bin, and I will see it on Monday. You'll turn these in on Monday. So 3 stitch lines, then move to the sewing on paper, the 3 different sheets, and you can check things off right here as you complete each thing, though I know it says stitching on paper is first. And then at the very end, you're gonna get your name here, keep it in your bin, and I will collect them on Monday. All right? Have fun.